Good morning, everyone, and I welcome you. I, Dr. Dinath Rao, lead ecology and biodiversity of Terracon Ecotech Private Limited, along with my colleague, Mr. Akshay Nachne, who is a co-lead ecology and
Hello.
biodiversity. Welcome you all for this unique webinar on mainstreaming biodiversity in business. Many of you have attended lots of webinar and quite heard through the social media about yesterday, which was the International Day for Biological Diversity. And yesterday also we conducted a seminar, a webinar on this. And due to the overwhelming response from you, we are conducting the second session of this webinar today. So I again welcome you, and then I start with the webinar. So as I have told you that yesterday it was the International Day for Biological Diversity. Why it is celebrated as that day? So on 22nd May 1992, the Convention on Biological Diversity, which is a spearheaded convention at international level, was adopted, and this was actually got into enter into force on 29 December 1993 with the three main objectives to conserve the biological diversity, sustainable use of components of biological diversity, and fair and equitable sharing of benefit of arising from biodiversity. This convention has ratified by 196 countries by now, and India is one of the oldest country to sign this convention in 1994. When we are saying that this is convention on biological diversity, what is biodiversity? So let us go through the biodiversity. So CBD has defined the biodiversity as variability among the living organisms from all sources of the ecosystem, various species, and this that are present in terrestrial, marine, aquatic, or lots of other ecosystems that are present. There, there are three types of diversity: species diversity, genetic diversity, and ecosystem diversity. Let us go through this in detail. So what is species diversity? So different species that are present around us, maybe animals, plants, tigers, leopards, many birds, city birds, forest birds, even the varieties, uh, all this comprises of the species diversity. Similarly, now this is the season of mango, so we all can see lots of varieties of mangoes around. So these varieties within the species, the diversity within one species, or the breeds of dogs that we can see, are also the biodiversity. This is a genetic diversity, so there is a difference, just a minor difference between the genes, and the species is same. Along with it, when the species live in a certain habitat in its home, it does have some interactions with the surrounding. And these interactions with the non-biotic like soil, water, air, this comprises of the ecosystem. And the variety, the diversity between different ecosystems is also being considered as a ecosystem diversity. So pool of species, varieties, and the ecosystem pulled together becomes a biodiversity. Why that is so important? Biodiversity is there around us. So let us see. We all are aware that we get fresh water, we get clean air, and we become very happy to have the clean air around us. We get food, we get fiber, we get lots of medicines. Even the allopathic medicines have the roots in the herbal or the plant products. So all these direct benefits are are received from the biodiversity. Simultaneously, there are climate regulations, soil erosion. Like we all know that trees have been planted to check the soil erosion, or wherever there is a forest, we get the clean air. The water regulation, due to good number of trees, we can get a kind of a good monsoon, or say the the precipitation or the rains. So all these indirect benefits which we cannot see are also benefits from the biodiversity. Along with it, we go to the scenic places and we get a wow factor, cultural, spiritual, some educational. We have now environment education as one of the subject in a formal education. So people go around to learn, to enjoy the nature and the recreational activities like photography or any other ecotourism part. So all these aesthetic and cultural benefits that we get from biodiversity leads us to highlight the importance of the biodiversity. All these benefits are essentially being termed as ecosystem services, and they are categorized into four different uh, groups or the based on their functions. So one is provisional services. In these provisional services, we get the direct benefits, which the biodiversity elements which gives us the uh, which provides us food, energy, uh, medicines, fresh water, are provisional ecosystem services. There are other, second ecosystem services is the regulating services, which maintain the water cycle, the climate regulations, air purification, even the pollination. Just 2 days ago, there was an International Bee Day. So we all have heard about why bees are important, how they do the pollination or they help in pollination. So all these uh, benefits that we get from the biodiversity or the smallest element of the biodiversity are considered, are grouped under regulating services. Along with it, as we have seen, the cultural benefits, so educational, recreational, heritage, spiritual aspects of the biodiversity or say whole ecosystem have been considered, have been grouped under cultural services. All these three ecosystem services are actually supported by the supporting services, and these are essentially indirect services that we can't see. So the photosynthesis, that means the with the help of water and sunlight, plant prepare their own food, nutrient cycling, and soil formation. So due to the weathering impact, weathering effect, soil is getting created, which is being used. So there are lots of minerals that are there in soil, which has been absorbed by plant. So all this, what theoretically we have read somewhere or during our childhood, which we can't see, is being which is supporting the life on the earth, is considered as a supporting ecosystem services. Now, here is one interesting thing which I wanted to share with you, that biodiversity web, uh, on the screen on your left hand side, there is a colorful biodiversity web. So that's how we see the nature, that's how we see the wildlife, that's how we see the biodiversity, which is very complex. And some of some of the element we can see, we can't see. Some of the benefits we get directly, some of the benefits indirectly. Now CPD, in addition to the definition of biodiversity, also says that biological diversity is about more than plants, animals, and microorganisms and their ecosystem, but it is about the people. So you and me, and our need for food security, medicines, fresh air, water, shelter, clean and healthy environment. So everywhere we are saying fresh air, water, clean air, healthy environment, etc. Look on the other side of the image, which is simple ecosystem, where human being is in the center. And when human being comes in a center, we think only about our requirements and what we need from the nature, how we will pay off to the nature. So that is also important to understand when we speak about importance of the biodiversity. It's usually when food of wave we see, human being is not there. And when we have to consider that if we have to be there, we'll have to give back to the nature. How we will give back to the nature? It's not necessary that the benefits that are giving that we are receiving from biodiversity we shall reciprocate in the same way, but by conservation, by restoration, we can do this kind of reciprocation to the biodiversity. As I said that human being, when we see the human being, we look at the his requirements. Yes, of course, that is most important because we are one of the evolved element of the biodiversity. But what happens when our demand increases, or let us say the our greed, our need becomes our greed? This demand converts into the business. There are good businesses, sometimes there are bad businesses, but this will definitely have some repercussion. This will have some kind of impact on the biodiversity. As demand leads to the business, what does the ignorance to the biodiversity leads to? So there is a picture which elaborates more than words that our disrespect to the nature is resulting into the pollution in ocean, in water. So when we are talking about getting a clean water, clean air, and everything healthy to us, but we are not keeping these ecosystem services or this biodiversity as healthy as we want. And that is where it is very important that we understood the importance of the biodiversity. Now, let us also see the relationship of the business or the human need and the biodiversity. So, let us categorize this relationship into four. So, there are impacts. So, human being or any business or anything that is happening will have an impact. There will be dependencies. There are opportunities from it, and there are risks. Let us see in detail how there is a relationship between these four. So let us first see what are the impacts of the business on a biodiversity. So there is a habitat fragmentation. Pristine forest or the lively corridors which are present, and there is a suddenly there is an industry that is coming up, or there is a road construction, or there is some kind of a development that is happening. Obviously, our if we have seen the map of India, the biodiversity rich areas are also rich in minerals and other elements which have been targeted or been preferred for the mining activities. Additionally, we will see the dependencies, how business are dependent on the biodiversity. So there we will understand why these businesses are preferred this kind of a location. So what happens when the business is getting set up in a say pristine forest or the corridor? It gets disconnected. This become a fragmentation, and this fragmentation leads to road kills or the human animal conflict. Over exploitation. This is a very good example of a codfish which is known for the codfish oil. So this was the area where codfish used to found in a good quantity. So till 1960, this population was very sustainable because there was less commercial exploitation was involved. However, during 1960 and 70, suddenly the demand increases, and so does the extraction. This extraction, the harvest of the codfish has increased so much that after 1990, there was a sudden dip in the availability of the codfish. And after 1992, the entire field, the business got completely down because of the unavailability, or we can say unsustainable harvest of the codfish. We have already talked about this, and we all are aware that this plastic pollution is leading to a massive problem nowadays. In fact, during the pandemic, there are photographs that they are now showcasing, getting forwarded on the social media, that the mask that we are using, or we are once we are using and then throwing, are ultimately leading to the sea. And already there are some pictures are getting flooded with the mask in the ocean floor. So so problem is somewhere where we don't care, we ignore, and we just want it one way, that biodiversity should provide us the benefit, we want respect it. Similarly, when businesses are set up, or even when we relocate, we take up some kind of actions that impacts the biodiversity in a very different way. So it is not only that the setup is destroying the land, but it is also altering the species composition. So addition of the exotic species. So all species are important. Yes, we have learned that biodiversity is everything, all living species, their interactions, even the breeds or the varieties of species are biodiversity. But still, they each of them will have some connection to each other. And when it is the non-native species, they will definitely lose some connect to the local associated species. So let us take an example of a few species of plants like Lantana tamara, which is Ghaneri in Marathi, or uh, lantana, usually commonly known as, or suvabud, or congress grass. So, or even in fauna or in birds, the pigeons. So we love to feed pigeons, yes, but because of that, pigeons are getting readily available food, and they are multiplying their population, which is threatening the native faunal species, native birds. Similarly, the plants which are considered as alien invasive species, they are successful because they have certain mechanisms, certain chemicals that allow them to grow in such a way that they overcompete, they just overshoot their population, and the native population or the native species will not grow around them. And this is not the healthy competition that nature wants. So it is human induced alteration of the habitat, and that leads to the destruction of the composition as well as the land use. It also leads to the disease and parasitic spread and hybridization of the species. Uh, Let me tell you one interesting fact here. When we say that biodiversity is important, and when we say that native species, the exotic species should not planted uh, because we need to protect the native species, the monotonous plantation or monospecific culture is also bad. At the same time, the completely exotic species or a different type of alteration is also bad. Why monospecies or the one species planted everywhere is bad? Because then there is no composition, there is no diversity remain in that particular area, and obviously all association with the faunal species or any other floral species we have already lost. So it will merely give you some kind of benefits, it will give you some kind of oxygen, it will show you some flowers, but it will not help to sustain the biodiversity of web. And because of which this exotic species is an very alarming issue that everyone is highlighting at even international level. and much talked about and very famous topic of climate change. So all our activities, all our actions are leading to, unfortunately, global warming, climate change, which has the repercussions of sea level rise or the melting of ice and increasing temperature, erratic monsoon, erratic seasons that we have experienced. Last year's monsoon, or we can say the precipitation that has happened even till the month of December, and the entire cycle was lost. This has not only impact on the normal livelihood, but also the food security and other allied and associated impacts will ultimately lead to our own quality of life. So these impacts are very important. Now let us see what are the dependencies on biodiversity. So fossil fuel, so raw material kind of for oil and natural gas, water. Water is very essential for business. So it may be for operations, or it may to sustain the human being or the employees of the company. Agricultural output, or say wood, plants for restoration. Along with it, all the regulatory kind of a natural flood or the erosion control, storm control, capturing of carbon using trees, air purification due to presence of green belt, recreational features for employees, a very beautiful scenic garden we have, and spiritual values for workers as well as the local population. Along with it, soil formation, nutrient cycling, etc., etc., etc. All these dependencies are there of the business on biodiversity. Let us connect that with the ecosystem services. So we already have seen these ecosystem services as provisioning, regulating, cultural, supporting. So our dependencies as a business are there on nature, and these are essential ones. So we cannot, we are completely dependent on biodiversity. We cannot say that I want to set up a business which is not dependent on biodiversity. Ultimately, directly or indirectly, we are dependent on the biodiversity. So what if I consider as a business a biodiversity? So we get the access to resources. So good resources means good product. So our operations get smoothly covered. We have been considered as preferred partner in a much aware world now. Ethics and values. So what nature is giving us, we are paying it back in some or the other way. So this business ethics and societal values, as well as the human welfare. Corporate reputation. So we get a reputation in across the stakeholders, investors, partners, as well as the government. It is cost saving. So much of the important aspect of considering biodiversity is, it is now coming up that most of the solutions that are nature based solutions are cost saving to the business, and it is also a good opportunity to capture a good market. uh, it is also, if we consider, if we give a due respect to the biodiversity, we are at a minimal risk. We have been protected by the nature itself, and that is why these opportunities are very important for business. What if I don't consider biodiversity at all? What are the risks? So obviously, as we have learned that our dependencies are on the business, are on the biodiversity. So same, or we can say, if these dependencies, if the ecosystem services or the biodiversity is at a stake, our operations will be also at a stake, and that will be disturbed. So increased scarcity or the cost of raw materials. So as we have seen the example of codfish. So as the demand increases, population decreases, and gradually whatever population that will available, that will have the high cost. So raw material cost will increase. It will definitely have some impacts due to the natural hazards. So let us consider an example of mangroves. Mangroves are natural barriers that will absorb the wave impact at the coast. What we are trying to do is we are removing mangroves and we are putting the concrete bunds. Is it really sustainable? This concrete bunds for a time being, yes, they will allow the waves or the force of the sea to stop at one place, but mangroves will give you back the quality of life. So so it is very much important that our operation that this risk are there from the biodiversity loss. At the same time, customers are now very well aware about the giving due respect to the biodiversity. So they are switching to a more sustainable sources or the certified products. Also, government is implementing new sustainable policies which are uh, which are to protect the biodiversity that we have, and that is why there is a market risk around a business. Uh, as government is also putting up the some policies to protect the biodiversity. It is also in some context, some countries, they are also taking a tax, and the laws are being making stricter and stricter to have the extractive activities to allow the extractive activities with respect to biodiversity. So as laws are becoming stringent, the regulatory affairs of the business are making becoming more uh, difficult to operate if we don't respect to biodiversity. And more importantly, it's a reputational risk. So a damage to the name of the company, of the business, due to any small or big uh, activity, due to uh, due to any of the action of not respecting biodiversity or losing biodiversity due to our impact, is going to hamper our reputation in the market. And currently, if you see, or if you will be agree to me, that advertisement is the most important factor, uh, or the market is most important factor to capture the business. And that are the risks. So these risks are not for one particular business, but these are across all the sectors of biodiversity of the business. So may it be primary industries or the utilities or the customer goods. So all the risks which we have talked about, like reduced productivity, scarcity, and increased costs, disruptions, which are physical risks, or the litigation, reduced quotas, restricted access to the land and resources, which are regulatory or the and a legal risk. At the same time, there are market risks, which are due to the changing preference by the consumers. So these risk of to the business are across all the sectors, and it is not confined to any one sector. So that's why I said that it is any business will have certain dependency and definitely will have certain impact on the biodiversity. So yes, biodiversity is very important. How we will live only with biodiversity, we will require some kind of a development. Yes, in today's lockdown phenomenon, we all are connected through the social media, through the internet, through the technologies. So this development is important. We required electricity, we required everything, we required all machines for locomotive, like cars and moving transport vehicles, we required. What is important when we have the business setup and it has the impact and the risk, but it also has the opportunity. So the process of reconciliation is very important. So business and biodiversity should go hand in hand. When we are setting up a business, we must look at the biodiversity from the beginning, and that is where it gives you the beneficiary or the tangible uh, effect or the benefit over the others. How we will look at biodiversity in the beginning. So let us look at this, the crux of the uh, biodiversity management by the business. So this is a mitigation hierarchy, and let us consider that there is a biodiversity. So biodiversity value on the y-axis is been considered as a biodiversity, and I want to set up an business which is uh, which is in this particular biodiversity area. There is an imaginary x-axis with a no net loss, means I will not have any impact on the biodiversity. I said imaginary because all businesses, as we have seen, will have some impact. So what are these impacts? So there are some predicted impacts. So before we go into any business setup, we do a lot of study that how this business will run, what kind of a raw material we required, etc., etc., etc. And similarly, we can also, or through this, we can also understand what are the predicted impacts of the business on biodiversity. Now, let us say from this predicted impacts, can we avoid something? So, suppose we want to set up a business in a very good pristine forest. Can we avoid? Can we avoid or to set up this kind of this business in a very unique, very good scenic place? And can we take up a say a different place uh, which is not so pristine or degraded, but can we avoid this? So this avoidance is very important. There will be certain impacts that we can minimize. So even after setting up a business, there will be some kind of a minimization that we can do, obviously. So we can structure our business in such a way that we will have a minimal impact on the biodiversity. So maybe using using a smaller area, or maybe having a renewable uh, resources, so that we our dependency on the direct resources or the biodiversity will be reduced, some kind of that. Further, there will be some impact. So this can be mitigated by restoring or rehabilitation. So let us consider a mine. So if this mining area have to develop in some kind of a pristine forest, whether we can do it on the periphery instead of getting into the middle of it, so that is avoidance. Can we have, say, reduced area, or if we have the complete lease area with us, can we go phase wise, so that at least there will be some impact that will be reduced for certain period of time? And when we are going to the next level of mining, can we restore the already mined area? So this is one example, or a very simple example that I have uh, told. But obviously there are some predicted impacts that will be always there. These are called as a residual impact. So like setting up a industry, the colonies, the factories, this will permanently change the area which is where this has been set up. How to mitigate that? So we can have a similar uh, area, or the exact area, and then that can be, which can be degraded area, and that will can change or restore in such a way that it will be very close to the original composition of in terms of the biodiversity species. This whole exercise lead takes us to reach to the no net loss of the imaginary x-axis. Now what we can do further? So we have reached to the no net loss by offsetting the residual impact. We further, we don't want to stop it because biodiversity is not stopping us from giving any benefits to us. So why should we stop? We also can go ahead and do some additional measures, some actions to protect the biodiversity. And these have been considered as net positive impacts. Further, which is not from the part of this mitigation hierarchy, but additional conservation actions like supporting forest department or providing saplings to the locals which on which they are dependent of, or helping say researchers by providing some kind of equipments to study the animal pattern or say biodiversity around it. All these kind of measures which may not have the the kind of the offset or the mitigation because of our operations, but we are helping because we are sensible enough to allow to help the biodiversity to get conserved. We are doing these actions and these are considered as additional conservation actions. Now, how to do this? So we have seen the mitigation hierarchy where we can avoid, minimize, restore, or do some kind of a offset. But can we measure it? Can we how we are supposed to do it? Because we are not the biodiversity expert. Yes, obviously. But there are some tools to help you out there. So let us see that there are some 3 4 tools that we have mentioned here to help you out. And let us take an example of this business and biodiversity checklist. It is nothing but an Excel wherein we have to mention our activities, our products, services, and their business, our dependencies on within it. What is the question? The main answer that the main output that this gives us is what are the strengths or the weaknesses related to biodiversity my business has, and this allows us to understand how I can mitigate it. And there are kind of many companies who have actually looked at this, who has used this business and biodiversity checklist. And essentially, this tool looks at the presence of the species as well as the protected areas. Let us go to the next example of business risk and opportunity assessment. So this is applicable at landscape level, and this also allows us to understand what are my impacts and the dependencies on the biodiversity. But along with it, it allows us to understand what are the related risks and the opportunities in the landscape where the business is going to operate. So this is more elaborative one where we can understand how if I respect the biodiversity, if I contribute to the biodiversity, what are the opportunities that I have to operate the business. This is very helpful for business managers and companies that have the operations and the supply chain in an important landscape. So very pristine, lively corridors or the areas where this tool can be very useful. This was initially used by British American Tobacco Company and implemented in almost 20 countries. in 3 years. In India, it is used by ITC. IBAT is integrated biodiversity assessment tool, which we have heard that used by many corporates, many industries in India. So we have Lafarge, Holcim, Vedanta, Heidelberg, and many other diverse sectors have used this IBAT. What does IBAT do? So it takes a consideration of the presence of protected areas and species around it. So basically secondary literature. So whatever is present, the literature, it takes into consideration, and it screens through that those areas to allow us to know whether how much close we are operating from a biodiversity hotspot. It also allows us to project to take an account of the biodiversity related risk and the opportunities, and how I can plan in a better way or better management of this risk and opportunities, so that we can avoid our impacts on the biodiversity. Corporate ecosystem review is a tool. Now, this is very interesting tool because we have seen the biodiversity in the beginning and the ecosystem services. So this tool essentially not only looked at the biodiversity species, but but also or precisely more on the ecosystem services. So let us consider that our dependency on fresh water. We have plant product, we have a green belt around us, or we require a coal for that matter. So this kind of a dependencies are there. So we have to list it down, our dependencies throughout our operation, our supply chain, our product generation. And then this dependencies on the ecosystem services has to be uh, described in such a way that what are the risks and the opportunities are there, which are related to this ecosystem services where we are dependent on, where we or which we are using it, that is being evaluated. And this ESR has been used by around 300 companies, again, including Lafarge, uh, Mondi, Syngenta. Recently, we have worked for Ultratech Cement, where we have used this ecosystem service review for their three of the locations. Now, the interesting fact, and this case study, so how uh, businesses has actually considered the biodiversity how they have mainstreamed the biodiversity in their operations. And I would like to ask Akshay, who is a co-panelist, to introduce you with the case studies on this biodiversity conservation. Over to Akshay.
Thank you, Ninad. Was a really enlightening about biodiversity and businesses. So after understanding the relation between biodiversity and business, let us now have a look at some of the examples of the companies who have been taking biodiversity conservation to a next level. So the, the first I would like to talk about Toshiba Group. Toshiba, as many of us are aware, is a Japanese multinational conglomerate, and they have been taking biodiversity very seriously, and they have planned their activities in such a way to achieve the IG targets. IG targets are the targets which have been laid by Convention on Biological Diversity to achieve certain goals by 2020, as 2010 to 2020 was a decade on biological diversity. So they have planned their activities in such a way, like which will help in achieving this biodiversity or the IG targets. So I'll just take you to some of the activities which they have done. So the first one which I'd like to share here is about the ex situ conservation of the threatened species. So in Japan there was a species of day lilies, flowering plant, which was getting which is in an endangered list, and the population of it was getting declined at a very rapid rate. So what Toshiba Group, along with some experts, they did is they took some samples of this daylilies from the nearby forested area. They planted it in their campus. They grew it. They multiplied the daylilies, and after doing this, they reintroduced the stock into the forest area from where it was taken out. So that's an ex situ conservation. The next thing which they did was development of an ecological network. So butterflies, the aim was to spread the butterfly population throughout the city. So they handed over some fruiting or the larval host plants of particular butterfly species found in that area to the employees and ask them to plant this species around the cities whenever they are going at home. They come across some neighboring parks, forests, and natural areas within their, if they have a space at their home for gardening over there. So it would create a good network of butterflies in that area. Besides this, they have done some other activities like environment education, which is one of the most important uh, area which is required to make people aware about the biodiversity and conservation. They also had a weed control to manage the invasive alien species. So invasive alien species are the species which obstruct or don't allow the native population to grow, and as these species are exotic in nature. Uh, Also, they had a forest protection through construction of check dams and reforestation being carried out. And this every activity which they have done, this already fall in to achieve various IG targets. The next example which I would like to share is for the Ambutavi project. I don't know if the slides. Yeah. Okay. So this is a case study of an Ambutavi project, which is a nickel and cobalt mine situated in Madagascar. So when I talk about Madagascar, it's a island which is near the east coast of Africa, and this island nation of Madagascar has developed its own distinct ecosystem and extraordinary wildlife since it split from the African continent. And they already have a lot of species which are restricted to the Madagascar island. Uh, and It is found nowhere else in the world. So it's endemic to. There are a lot of endemic species which is present in Madagascar. And knowing this, if we have a look at the baseline which is there, so a beautiful forest was coming in the mining footprint, along with various different species from endangered and critically endangered categories were present, along with 13 species of lemur. So lemur are a mammal species which is found only in the islands of Madagascar and nowhere else. So this made this area a very pristine habitat and a pristine biodiversity area where these people had to start their business. So what they did is they initiated with the biodiversity management plan, and they started with the 5 goals for biodiversity management plan, where they decided that they will have to follow these things to protect biodiversity. So there is no loss, no species loss. The impact should be minimized. The conservation of rare habitat should be carried out, maintaining and increasing habitat connectivity, which will be the and link to other regional biodiversity initiatives. So to start with this, they followed the mitigation hierarchy, which was explained as an approach by Dr. Ninal. They followed the mitigation hierarchy, and one of the example of that was they want. If you see this image, uh, they had a mining area situated in the forested land, and the other operations of them, like harbor processing plants, tailing plants of the mines, was situated around 200 kilometers away towards the coast. So they had to push their slurry and the materials to that area. While doing that, the easiest way was them to take that slurry through a pipeline along the forest area, which would have been a more convenient and the cheapest option for them. But instead of that, what they planned was to reroute that and take the majority of the pipeline through a non-degraded forest area. And while doing this, the actual pipeline was passing from the uh, protected area was just 2 kilometers. And while doing that, there was a Ramsar site, which is Ramsar was a convention which happened on wetlands, and there was a pristine site which was present along the mine. So they tried to avoid that as well. So this is a beautiful example of how the things can be avoided. After doing that, they carried out various impact mitigation program for, like as I mentioned about the lemur species. So this is a lemur. So what they did is they put a radio collar and some microchips to track these animals. So they didn't cleared out the forest and just move the species from one place to another. They even tried to look at how the species is getting accommodated with to the new environment. With that, they did a tissue sampling of plants of some important species, along with the genetic mapping of the fish species where they found that some species were endemic, uh, helping out some animals to migrate. So there are some small animals which would require a human aid to move from one place to another. So they identified those things and they actually moved it to another place. So this kind of an initiative was taken. And to mention this, all the BMP which they have done or implemented, this was done before mining infrastructure construction began. So this is a very important takeaway for a new business to be started up, to consider biodiversity at a planning stage and take care of it at a very initial stage. One more example which I would like to mention is about it's an Indian case study for Tata Chemicals. So there is the mention about the corals. The corals are the marine invertebrates and they live in a large compact colonies, and it's a very important ecosystem for the fish and all the marine life. So India has a very good coral population at many places like Andaman, Lakshadweep, and on the coast of Gujarat and Maharashtra as well. So the Tata Chemicals, the location where they are situated, the area is near the Gulf of Kutch, and there was a depletion in the coral reef which was observed in that area, and the causes of that were rapid development along the southern coast of Gulf of Kutch. There was dredging of limestone and coralline sands, deforestation of mangroves, which were impacting the coral reef area. So what Tata Chemicals did was they actually did a transplantation of coral at the Gulf of Kutch. So with the help of experts, they transported the corals from for around 1500 kilometers from various places by ship, train, road, and they planted the corals in the Gulf of Kutch. A lot of effort has gone through it because transplanting of coral is not an easy task, and a lot of efforts, expertise has gone, but they have been successful in doing this and maintaining the coral reef ecosystem in Gulf. So, so this was some of the case studies which would like to mention. So besides this Tata Group, there are many other industrial houses in India who have started considering biodiversity as an important part of their businesses. Companies like Vedanta Group, ACC Cements, Mahindra, Aditya Birla Group, and many more have initiated biodiversity conservation in India. Considering the fact of increasing awareness in business sector with respect to biodiversity, we can hope to achieve the stage of reconciliation of business in biodiversity. And, thank you for patient listening. Uh, we have some time, so we can take some questions from the audience if there are any regarding content about business and biodiversity.
So, Akshay, before we start question and answer, I would like to also make audience aware that the rate of success, don't look at the rate of success, because in the last case study which you have mentioned, the rate of success of transplanted coral was only 3%, and they moved coral 10 kilometers a day. So imagine 1500 kilometers, how many days it took to reach from Lakshadweep to Mithap. So we at Terracon also support our clients with suggesting a nature-based solutions that are evolved from their own vicinity to help their business get appropriately operated. Thank you all. Thanks, Akshay. We can take one or two questions if time is there.
I think we request the audience to ask the questions to the chat window, so we can address those. So there's one question: do we have any tools for monitoring or maintaining this ecosystem services? Uh, to start with it, the ecosystem services monitoring or assessing. So there are tools like ecosystem services review. There is a tool called as ecosystem services benchmarking. So for the benchmarking tool, it's basically into 5 different components, like competitive advantage, implementation, and monitoring, and how business activities are considering the ecosystems into their activities. So that is one of the tool which is an important tool for monitoring, and there is a scoring system for that, and that's how people or the businesses can monitor their individual growth, or they can have a comparison between each other or the other sister companies. So that is one of the questions which was there. Okay, there's another question. Can you please share a list of companies in India who are into biodiversity management? This question, I think we can surely do that. We'll have to, as I have already mentioned a few companies during my talk about the case studies. So besides that, there are many more. I think we can share that document to you in that. Okay, there is
Akshay,
another, yeah.
we have the handouts to download. So audience can download these handouts of the tools where the list of companies are also mentioned.
Yeah, yeah, we will do that. Okay, there's one question about how do you come to numbers and economics to make this attractive and viable to corporates who is the most important baselines. Sorry, it's viable to corporations who is the most important baseline. Maybe Ninad, you want to answer this?
Can just repeat the question? Your voice was cracking.
Okay. How do you come to the numbers and economics to make this attractive and viable to corporations who is the most important baseline?
So essentially, there are some kind of a tool for ecosystem valuation. It is complicated and there are various tools, in fact, on the first place. There is no one particular tool where we not only look at the number of species, but also the functioning of the species, where the ecosystem services that it provides are being also considered. As we have discussed through the entire presentation, how the business risk and opportunities are there. So we'll have to do that model has to calculate that what are the plus points, minus points, and of the business, and how we can reduce our uh, inputs, our investment by adopting nature-based solutions or ecosystem-based approach, and then it can be worked out for a business. But this needs a very tailor-made kind of study or exercise to understand what are the ecosystem services on which the dependency is there, and what is the composition of the species. Thank you.
Okay. There is another another attendee, Mr. Pankaj Kadam, who is asking that they are developing a biodiversity park in their plant. Are there any KPI for biodiversity? So I think in the KPIs for biodiversity, there are indicators which basically you need to monitor them. So, Ninad, can you do you want to answer this?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Thanks. First of all, congratulate Pankaj because you are doing such a good effort of doing the biodiversity park. So important is that what is the baseline that you had, and from there where you have reached. So it is very important not to compare the biodiversity of ours with something else, but it is very important to understand what is the biodiversity of that particular area, whether that has enriched or not. So if your biodiversity park after getting created is hosting a good species which used to be there, so you need to understand the species composition which was there, how it was the impacted, and what is now come back to due to the biodiversity park. That is more important than getting it to the standardized score.
There's one more question by Mr. Nitin Kumar Sharma. He's asking, do we facilitate coral translocation? And secondly, what is the rate of translocation at Tata Chemicals? So I think Dr. Ninad mentioned about this. So the translocation rate for Tata Chemicals was just 3%. And let's not look into the success, but the efforts which are taking. And as the coral translocation is not an easy task, so it requires a lot of expertise and a lot of care to be taken. So as he mentioned, there was like the corals were transported just 10 kilometers per day. So just imagine the rate at which the number of days which were has gone into this kind of an activity. And this coral translocation, there requires a lot of permissions and from the forest, and it's not a simple task to be carried out. Nina, do you want to add about anything about coral translocation over here?
So just a bit that why they have I mean translocated it 10 kilometer a day. So they have been transported from 1500 kilometers, and corals are very sensitive. And as Akshay has rightly mentioned that it is not an easy task. So changing the environment could have been killed that 1% or 3% of the success rate as well. So they have to acclimatize corals in such a way that they could, when they will reach to the destination, there will be some survival rate. So that is the important stuff of the translocation.
There is a question from Ms. Suleksha Jagtap. She's asking, while implementing any management system in an organization, do we have to set objectives? See, whenever we are doing any biodiversity initiative, If we keep objectives, it's easy to track and track the progress, and it will help in smooth implementation of this thing. It's there is a no hard and fast rule to do that, but it's always better to have an objective and move towards it.
Akshay, I will add here, it will be also important at what level biodiversity management plan is getting prepared. So if it is at a basic level where you need the external inputs or the external expertise to understand where you are. So just creating a baseline, probably you will just have an objective to create a biodiversity management plan. Once you have this baseline ready with you, you can have the target oriented or goal oriented, like the Ambutavi project which Akshay has mentioned. You can have the goal oriented or objective oriented BMP, which will be in a subsequent duration time period, which will help you to achieve the targets and monitor your success. I guess that is important.
Uh, there's a question from Mr. Vishal Bowser. He's asking, is there any tool like IBAT which could be used for initial screening? Do we have India specific tool? Uh, so basically, what we need to know about when we are moving for a biodiversity conservation is the existing baseline. So like IBAT, there we can have a rapid assessment at the particular locations. Use different tools like ecosystem services to understand the dependencies, impacts, and the risk associated with the ecosystems and businesses. And this can be collated and then categorized about how which can be or categorize or prioritize how which location needs a detailed interventions and move accordingly or plan the activities accordingly. Uh, so there are various other GIS tools where the primary data or the baseline data which is collected, which can be mapped and have a look at it in a spatial manner. So this can help to have an output or a spatial representation similar to the IBAT. There is a question by Mr. Pradeep Patil. So standard method to calculate carbon dioxide absorption capacity of a tree. Is is there any IS standard? You want to answer this?
Yeah. So frankly, there are several methods, and these are the uh, volumetric equations which are non-destructive method. So there is no particular IS standard methodology to calculate the carbon sequestration. But moreover, volumetric equation, when you use it, gives the similar results. I guess the time is getting over. I think I request all the audience to post their question, and also we will send you the email where you can send your queries or your questions to us through email or the phone, and uh, and we will revert back to you once they have reached to us. So let me, Akshay, shall I do the
Yeah,
closing now? Or yeah.
yeah, we
So thank you everyone for giving us this opportunity to discuss with you about how mainstreaming of the biodiversity is important in a business sector. Uh, and as some of you are aware, and if you're not, then we are trying our level best to understand the biodiversity with our own expertise and how we can learn from nature. So this year's international biodiversity theme was our solutions are in nature. So nature is there to learn, to teach us many things, and we have to learn from it. We have to pick up something from it. So with this, we Terracon Ecotech Private Limited who is trying to provide a nature-based solutions to our clients, to our corporate and corporation partners, would like to thank you for attending this webinar, and also would like to thank for opportunities given in the past, and we look forward for your association in future for a good, healthy, ecologically sustainable association. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone. We will be sending you a short survey. It would be great if you could fill it out. And if you have any questions, please email me at daivi.ghosh@terraconindia.com. The email address should be on your screen. Once again, thank you so much. And I hope you have a great rest of the day.